What is up, my YouTube family? This is your boy Kato, and welcome back to another episode of KDOE'S Korner, where winners are made. Today is going to be a very special episode. We're going to have a guest speaker on, and she is an expert in gold and silver. I cannot wait for this episode to get going. You guys are going to be super stoked. Make sure you watch to the very end because this episode is going to have immense amount of information that is very, very valuable. So stay tuned. Get to that intro.
I can't take no loss. I don't even know what it costs. I hit the ground, then it go off. Yeah, hit the ground, then it go off. Yeah, I can't take no loss. I don't even know what it costs. Yeah, I hit the ground, then it go off. Yeah, hit the ground, then it go off.
So before we kick things off, if you have not subscribed, please smash that subscribe button, join the Winner's Corner. That way you're notified every single time a new video comes out. If you're interested in changing your financial future and creating generational wealth for your family, then please check out my affiliate link down below for the 3T Warrior Academy. If you are into doing technical analysis, if you're just starting out, you're learning how to do it, and you do not have a TradingView account, I suggest that you please check out my affiliate link down below where you can get up to $30 off by using my link. I also have to mention that I am not a financial advisor. Anything I say and do is not considered to be financial advice. This is just what I am doing, and hopefully my tips can help you guys along in your financial journey and inspire you guys to go out, do your own research, and create your own trading plan. All right, everybody out there who is watching, this is a precious metal expert. Her name is Faye. Faye, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself, that'd be great.
Hey guys, so glad to be here today. I've been in the industry for over a decade now. My family had a bullion exchange, so we were doing that for quite a number of years. Eventually, we left that industry, and I've gone private. So now I deal with privately through word of mouth.
And just so everybody knows that I will leave a link in the description below if you guys want to email her. I actually purchased my precious metals from her as well. And her prices beat a lot of the big exchanges. To be honest with you, I can't even find another place that has the prices that she has. So I know one of the burning questions that people want to know is why gold and silver. So that is why I brought you on here and on this show, because you obviously know way more than I do know about that asset class. So take the floor.
Yeah. So, I think everyone can feel the chaos that's going on right now in the economy. Inflation right now is eroding our purchasing power. People are feeling fearful that the value of their savings and even the retirement savings is at risk. Some people have lost a substantial value in their registered savings plans, right? And this is like for their retirement. So there's things that you can do for that, for your registered savings and your retirement funds. A lot of people are fearful of the banking crisis as well. Like, what's going to happen to their money? Should their bank collapse? Are there going to be bail-ins? Are there going to be bailouts? So, you want to think about holding gold and silver as protection. It's a way to protect your family wealth. It's wealth insurance. It's tangible. So, if you hold it in your possession, there's no one that can take that away from you. All of that, right. The money that you saved. And I'm calling gold and silver real money because what we're using right now is currency. Mike Maloney talks about that a lot. But if you hold your money in gold and silver on you, then there's no counterparty risk. No one can take that away from you. So you're protecting your asset.
Right.
Okay. A lot of leading economists right now are talking about us going into a crisis situation. So I think we really need to start looking at, putting ourselves in a position where we have real things in our hand. So like land, gold, silver, machinery, equipment, wood, food. We want to have some cash on the side as well. Like in Canada, a few months ago, we experienced, an outage, a Rogers outage. And what people experienced is that they couldn't buy anything.
Right.
And only the people who had cash were able to buy things, right? So, if we are in a situation where there's no cash left and, the internet goes out, how are we supposed to buy things? Right. So if we have gold and silver, we'll be able to make purchases. Right.
Yeah. And then and not only that, with everybody talking about CBDCs coming into play, and if that happens or not, I'm not too sure. It looks like that's what they're at least going to try to push. And I think that it's going to be up to at least here in the US, it's going to be up to the people whether they end up adopting that or not. I think if people start following along with it and just going with the flow, then, that's what's going to happen here is the CBDCs are going to be introduced. But what people don't realize is that is a means to us losing our freedoms. And that is a means to them taking complete control of our financial situation. That's where they can start introducing a social credit score and all types of things like that. So, if you look over what they're doing in China, I feel like the US is possibly trying to mimic what they're doing. So
and the other thing
that
is,
asset makes sense to me, because that's not the digital asset anymore. That's physical. You hold that in your hand and it still has purchasing power because of what it is. That's God's money, right? A lot of people say that that's God's money.
Yeah. And the other thing with the CBDCs is that I'm hearing that they may have an expiration date. So if you don't use it, if you don't use it by a certain time, you may lose it. I mean, gold and silver don't have an expiration date. Simple. Right?
Yeah.
That's a major case for having precious metal. We don't know what the CBD system is going to look like. We don't know, if we're going to be able to make certain purchases, right? Gold and silver are completely outside of the control of the central bank. And if you want to pull up that money flower that I sent you.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you take a look at this money flower, you'll notice that gold and silver commodity money is widely accessible. It's peer to peer, but it's completely out of the central bank control and digital control. So there's zero counterparty risk. You hold it. If you hold it, you own it. A lot of people go back to, there was a gold confiscation back in 1933 during the Great Depression. Now, I don't think that's going to happen this time. One reason is because back then, the U.S. was on the gold standard, and now we're not. And number two, nobody owns it. Back then, everyone owned gold. Right now, like hardly anybody owns gold. I'm hearing the number 1%. So, I mean, it wouldn't be worth it for the government to go and try and confiscate that, right?
Right.
Because nobody has it.
So that kind of brings me along to my next question is I'm hearing a lot of rumors out there about BRICS nations and how that they're stacking gold right now. And a lot of central banks are actually stacking gold right now and stuff like that. And they're trying to basically devalue the US dollar, get a lot of the countries to where they're not going to depend on the US anymore or the US currency anymore. And they're going to start depending more on the BRICS nations currency. So therefore, the US would not be a superpower anymore, which could create a hyperinflation type situation. I have a question on how precious metals factor into that.
Yeah. So, if all the countries start dumping the dollars and the US gets flooded with their dollars, then we would probably be in a hyperinflationary situation. But I think that's going to take some time. I think, over the next decade or so, things are going to start to evolve. But if we do, in the long run, end up in a hyperinflationary situation, then you do want to be in precious metals, because let's take a look at that chart that I sent you, the gold price.
Yeah.
All right. So if you take a look at the gold price performance and silver price performance over the last 20 years, it's definitely kept up with inflation. In the last 20 years, you've seen gold rise by 1,665 and silver by 2078. So what does that tell you? It tells you that precious metals definitely keeps up with inflation. Now, if we go into a hyperinflationary situation, I mean, you're going to see that number just jump like what we've seen recently in Lebanon. And if you want to show that chart, this was recent. Lebanon is currently experiencing a currency crisis. And back in January of this year, you've seen gold jump from 3 million Lebanese pounds to all the way up to 30 million Lebanese pounds in a day. I mean, that's just wild. So if you think about, if you are in a situation where you hold a mortgage or you have any debt in this situation, your debt is priced at that old ratio, right? So you can take your gold or your silver and you can go pay off whatever you need to pay off. Like go pay off your house. And it's going to take less precious metals to be able to do that, right? So, holding precious metals in a hyperinflationary situation can definitely save your ass.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
Yeah. So another good example of, a hyperinflationary situation would be Venezuela. Venezuela right now is pricing their goods in gold. Believe it or not, their purchasing power has been eroded to the point where people don't trust their currency anymore. So they're breaking off chips of gold to purchase everyday items like groceries, like gas, like paying for rent, et cetera, et cetera. Pretty amazing. And I think that, if that can happen there, and it's happened in other countries around the world as well, if that can
Right.
happen, there, it can happen here. It can happen anywhere.
100%.
So, yeah, precious metals is definitely a way to, like, it's an example of how they're using it. They're using precious metals to pay for things. That is
Right.
true protection. It's real money. Currency, central bank currency is, and I'm talking about paper money too, like it's not real money. It's currency. We go back to real money in crisis situations, and that's what Venezuela is doing right now.
Right. And that's holding something like that's physical that you can hold in your hand that is
Right.
real value, like precious metals.
Yep.
So that kind of brings me into my next topic, which would be, there's a lot of rumors out there, a lot of noise out there about another possible collapse of the stock market, similar
Yeah.
to the 2008 crisis, and possibly even worse. It might bring us into like instead of a recession, a Great Depression. I've heard that as well out there. And if that were to happen, then I think a lot of people will start ditching bonds. A lot of people are going to be exiting out of the banks, especially if they start collapsing and we start seeing larger banks collapse. So, how would holding precious metals hedge against something like that?
Yeah. Well, initially, I think you're going to see a sell off in precious metals too, right? Because people are going to need to sell off their most liquid asset to cover, margin calls and to cover their debts, et cetera, right? So I think and if we were to head into it, a depressionary situation, I think that we're going to see an initial sell off. But then you're going to see the prices definitely take off, right? Because everybody's going to go into security. And, once the retail market hears about reasons to hold gold and silver, there's going to be a rush. And we're going to head into a super cycle.
Can you explain what a super cycle is for like people who are wondering?
Basically, a super cycle is when something is way above trend for an extended period of time. So, what I'm hearing from the economists is that we're going into a commodity super cycle. So, people are looking to hold real things, tangible things, things that hold its value. So, yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So something that I heard you mention earlier in the episode is that you can use precious metals as a way for retirement, for your
Mhm.
IRAs or whatever, instead of your traditional stocks and stuff like that. So can you elaborate a little more on that so people understand how they can actually do that and what that all entails?
Yeah. So first, let me say that I normally wouldn't, suggest that someone open a new registered retirement plan at this point, because, like, going back to what we were talking about earlier, we want to hold real, tangible things in our hands so that there's no counterparty risk. But with that said, if you have an existing registered savings plan, like an IRA, or if you're in Canada, an RSP, a TFSA, et cetera, and you're concerned with the value that's sitting within those plans, because I know a lot of people have mentioned, they've lost a significant amount of value within those registered savings, and they're
Yes.
not yet at retirement age to be able to cash those out. They don't want to worry about the tax implications. So, what you can do is you can hold or move your registered savings into physical, tangible precious metals. So you make the purchase of the precious metals, it goes into a vault where it's fully allocated in your name and it's fully insured. And so that's kind of like, protecting the funds that are currently sitting in that registered retirement savings. And it's sitting in a tangible form instead
Right.
of in paper form, right? So you're kind of like, it's kind of like once removed. When you come to retirement age, at that point, you can consider whether you want to take delivery of your metal in the physical, tangible form, or if you want to cash out and take it out in the current currency that the country's using, right?
Right.
So, it's a way to protect your retirement funds. I mean, I think this is amazing, really.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's really smart. Personally, I'd rather be in charge of my own retirement. However,
Yeah.
I think if you already have IRAs in place and stuff like that, then that's probably the best way to hedge against everything that's going on right now and to
Yeah.
protect yourself the most is doing
Yeah.
something like that, trying to roll it all over into something like precious metals that has actual tangible value
Yeah.
and it's not going to go anywhere and it can curb inflation and all of that type of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And
that totally makes sense.
I did mention earlier that, I wouldn't typically look at opening a new registered retirement fund right now, because you want to have everything in tangible form without that counterparty risk. But with that said, like if you're in a situation where you need to reduce your taxable income for that year, so you've made an amount of money that was over and above a certain threshold, and you need to reduce your taxable income, so you need to open a registered retirement fund, then I would look at this as an option for sure,
Right.
because this would be in tangible form, right?
Yeah, exactly. Makes sense. So that brings me to my next question that I think a lot of people out there may have is do you need to hold gold and silver? And what is
Yeah.
the purpose of holding gold versus the purpose of holding silver?
Yeah. So gold is to protect your family wealth. Okay. So, if you have a lot of savings, you want to put it in gold. Gold is a hedge against inflation. Gold is the safe bet. When it comes to silver, silver's a little bit more volatile. But the nice thing about silver is the gold to silver ratio right now, and it's so out of whack. Typically, the gold to silver ratio is 15 to 1. So for every 1 ounce of gold, it's 15 ounces of silver. Right now, it's 80 to 1. So there's
Wow.
huge, huge upside on silver. Now, I'm hearing numbers from different economists saying that, we're going to see triple digit silver soon.
Yeah, I've heard that
Um,
as well.
yeah. So, I mean, silver is the trade of the century, because eventually, like number one, the prices are being suppressed. Everybody knows it. Certain parties have been fined a few times for suppressing the price of silver, especially. The gold to silver ratio is way out of whack. Eventually, it's got to come back to, a more truer ratio. So, I mean, we're looking at definitely triple digit numbers, I think. So
Yeah.
it's the trade of the century. And there's a lot more demand too on for silver, because number one, people can afford it, right? Number two, it's used in industrial purposes. So there's a huge industrial demand as well. And we're going into a green economy. And so solar panels and stuff, what are they made of? Silver.
Over. Yeah.
So, yeah. So, I mean, there is a huge demand right now for silver. Investment's gone up by 22%. But when the public hears about it, there's going to be a freaking rush, and you're not going to be able to get it. You're not. Like, we're already seeing the premiums of precious metals and silver go up by it's doubled, tripled
Right.
in some cases, right? Like, go try and buy an American Eagle. Look at the premium on the American Eagle. It's
Oh,
it's
it's
ridiculous.
outrageous. Yeah.
Yeah, it's outrageous. So, I mean,
Almost 20 over spot.
yeah. So I think in the future we're going to see premiums rise by quite a bit. And it's going to be harder and harder to get. So,
And it seems
yeah,
like the premium on silver is a lot higher than the premium on gold as well.
the premium on silver is definitely, yeah, a lot higher. I mean, when you look at the cost of silver to the cost of gold, it doesn't seem that way. But when you're looking at, the spot price and the percentage over spot, then yeah, it definitely is, right? So, what a lot of people don't know when they hear dealers and, people like me talking about spot price, and they think that they can actually purchase the physical metal at that spot price, but that's the price that's being traded on the market. That's the paper price. So there's always a premium on top of the spot price. And what's in the premium is the cost for fabrication to strike it. There's, the cost of distribution. There's the cost of storage. There's all those costs that are built in to the premium, right?
Right.
So, and then market demand actually plays into that as well, right? So you're seeing the premium prices go up because there's a surge in market demand.
Yeah, and that kind of actually brings me into something that I have heard about. I don't know if it will ever happen, obviously, or not, but something that I've heard is that what if there was a recount within the US? I know a lot of people are in gold stocks and stuff like that, and silver stocks as well. Is there a good possibility that they're saying there's a lot that we own a lot more gold and silver than we actually do? And if there was a recount of that, there's all these people that have it on paper, but they don't actually have the physical metal. That would make that price go through the roof, right? I mean, that would surge the price drastically if they're saying that they even had 2 times what we actually have on hand.
Yeah, and that goes into that whole price manipulation idea, right? So if there was a recount and the true amount that's in storage was exposed, then you'll see the price of precious metals surge.
Right.
Right.
And then you'll also see a lot more people trying to get their hands on them, I would assume. It would kind of create a FOMO type situation into the markets.
There already is. Like in the last month with the banking crisis, in the States, even me here in Canada, like I could not stay off the phone. I was getting call after call. There's been a surge in, market demand. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense too. Why? I mean, there's a lot of crazy things going on right now. So a lot of uncertainty. People want to secure their assets and not see it go to nothing. So it totally makes sense.
Funny thing is that people wait. They wait for that. They wait for that black swan event. They wait for, something to happen. But if you were buying it before, and if you, maybe buy a certain percentage or dollar cost average, or, take a whichever way you want to do it. Some people buy in, large sums at a time, right? But, I wouldn't be waiting for that type of black swan event. I wouldn't be waiting for any volatility. I would be doing it now, right? We all know, and we can all feel that we are going into a crisis situation. We all know it. So what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? And we have current real life examples around the world that show us that precious metals is, needed in that crisis situation, right? They're using it in a crisis situation.
Right. Yeah, 100%. And I think that is why I stress to a lot of different people, and I have on this channel as well, is that you have to be versatile when it comes to your investments and when it comes to your money. Because you put everything in one basket and that basket falls and all your eggs break, then you're left with nothing. So you have to be diversified, and you got to have money in multiple different areas. That way, if one asset class falls, or if one currency falls, or whatever that is, you're safe in other areas. And I think that is why it is very important to own precious metals as one of those type of assets.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to wait, because if you wait, then you might not be able to get it. That's for sure.
Yeah, makes sense. All right. So I really appreciate you coming on this episode of KDOE'S Korner. I think your information was super valuable to a lot of people out there. If you're not invested in this asset class, I suggest you add this to your portfolio to help curb against all the things that are going on financially around us. Any closing remarks?
No, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Sounds good. Hopefully,
super great.
Yeah, hopefully we can have you back on here at some point. Like I said, I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a good day.
You too. Have a good one.
So I hope all of you enjoyed this special episode of KDOE'S Korner. Please give it up for Faye. I'm very thankful that she came on this episode, and I hope to have her on here again soon. If you guys can please drop a comment below, let me know what you guys thought. Like the video, it'd be very much appreciated. If you have not subscribed, please smash that subscribe button. Join the Winner's Corner. That way you're notified every single time a new video comes out. Like I said before, I will be leaving her information below so you guys can email her if you are trying to get the best prices on gold and silver or any other precious metals. I will be out with another video next week. I hope all of you have a badass, blessed weekend. Catch you on the next one. Peace.
I can't take no loss. I don't even know what it costs. I hit the ground and it go off.